Sí, buenas tardes, ¿me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan todas las cabinas? Señalen con la mano. Perfecto. Gracias.
Hola, hola. ¿Me escuchan? Hola, hola. Hay que ver, a ver, ahora cuando yo... Ajá, no puedo correr para adelante tanto como tengo esto aquí arriba. Quizás ponerlo en un lugarcito más alto o está bien ahí. Ahí está bien. Si hablas con ese volumen de voz... Ya, está bien. ¿Qué dicen mis cepillos? ¿Está modulando bien en transmisión? ¿Ya apago? Sí, ya.
Decenas de miles de médicos cubanos han prestado servicios internacionalistas en los lugares más apartados e inhóspitos. Un día dije,
once I said that we could never ever attack in a preventive or suppressive attacks to any place in this world. But however, our country might be able to send doctors, as many doctors as needed, to the remotest places in the world. We are to send doctors and not bombs.
Cabalgan sobre nuestro tedio. Después será, no es mi ciudad. Luego será, no son mis hijos. Somos la misma humanidad. Todos frente al mismo acertijo. Pero ¿qué estoy haciendo aquí? Amando este país como a mí mismo. No hay heroísmo. Vine a darle un beso al mundo y nada más. Pero ¿qué estoy haciendo aquí? Amando a este país como a mí mismo. No hay heroísmo. Vine a darle un beso al mundo y nada más, nada más.
Good morning, esteemed colleagues and comrades attending this Central Forum of Solidarity. Receive warm greetings from Cubans. We are celebrating the International Workers' Day with the background of the Cuban Eighth Party Congress. This is a strong decision of taking our revolution forward with joint efforts of all Cuban compatriots. This is a guide for workers by implementing deep changes as part of the updating of the Cuban economic model. Cuban workers are aware of a complex situation that we are facing, given the inhumane and criminal commercial financial blockade imposed unilaterally by the government of the United States over 60 years. The system of sanctions is unfair. It has been prolonged through the time. Specifically in the health sector, it has caused losses of $128 million, which reflects the pain of Cuban families. And in spite of the efforts of our state to find solutions for the lives of all, we see how they suffer for not being able to access state-of-the-art technology to treat cancer, for example. Just to give you some examples to show these, Cuba is a Cuban importing company reached out over 70 U.S. companies to explore the possibility of importing medicines, drugs, and devices. And none of these, most of these companies didn't respond. And those who did reply said that they weren't able to have contact with Cuban companies. We asked filters, hemodialysis devices for small children, children dialyzers to treat acute renal insufficient failure, and none of this was able to be obtained because of the blockade. We also requested for medical supplies to treat nutritional disorders, mainly in children, and they refused, alleging the activation of Title III of Helms-Burton Act. Many companies delayed the delivery of certain drugs, increasing the expenses for Cuba. The political will of our state and the humanistic nature of our workers made possible for us to have health indicators that are similar to developed countries. We ensure a universal healthcare system for everyone. We defend patriotism, humanism, and solidarity among all health workers. Cuba is an underdeveloped country with limited resources, and in spite of this, we show important results in facing this pandemic. In the first reports of this pandemic, prevention and control program was launched in order to minimize the impacts of this pandemic in Cuba. The success of our program has been due to the integral work by providing surveillance, providing medical health in every medical facility where we find suspected cases. We diagnose and guarantee biosecurity for health providers. This shows the political will of our system that has in its center the human being. I'm very proud to highlight the two elements that are part of our system. First is concerning the 94.2 patients that have been able to recover, showing the highest grades in Latin America. We are developing vaccine candidates that will allow us to vaccinate and immunize all the Cuban population, and this is thanks to Cuban scientists. Internationalism has been part of our days since the very beginning of the revolution in 1963, when we sent our first medical brigade to Algeria. Since then, more than 400,000 Cuban workers have traveled to Latin American, Caribbean, African, Middle East, and European countries. These services are provided to those countries who officially requested through the Cuban government, since they don't have enough human resources in normal times or in crisis time, and they need to send medical services to remote places, and their local doctors refuse to go to those places. We would like to highlight the results of miracle operation, which was a landmark of our medical history. Our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro proposed the creation of an international brigade to respond to epidemics and natural disasters. In that case was for in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. But The United States government at that time refused. They decided to remain lacking human resources rather than having Cuban doctors. We chose for that medical brigade the name of Henry Reeve, who was an American firefighter who joined the independence war in Cuba. We have been able to help many countries in the world to fight this pandemic. We have sent also doctors to 40 countries. Our doctors and nurses have been able to show humanism in many areas. This brigade has been there in more than 60 countries. And we have faced hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, epidemics. Cuban authorities and international authorities have highlighted especially the fight against Ebola in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Conakry. So far, we have provided care to 1,350,000 patients. We have saved 30,000 lives. Friends, Cubans shall continue this march with internationalism, which is the essence of the Cuban Revolution. We thank the many solidarity movements that support Cuba, and especially those who propose to give the Nobel Peace Prize to the Cuban Medical Brigade. We feel very proud for this, and Cuba will continue sharing its human resources, the most valuable one, to those in need. We are convinced that this Solidarity Forum will contribute to strengthen unity, articulation, and coordination in favor of the noble causes of humankind. United we shall overcome. Thank you very much.
La salud pública cubana es
Cuban public health is the essence of our process, and in that process we have a link to the life of our Commander-in-Chief, Fidel Castro Ruz. When we go back to the Moncada program in History Will Absolve Me program, he clarified which was going to be the plans of the revolution to be able to make our country progress and to work in public health in Cuba. The steps to taken to consolidate this program was taken after the revolution, and in the Academy of Sciences, Fidel made a speech saying that the future of Cuba was going to be a future of men of sciences. In these regards, many steps were led by Fidel Castro, and Cuba became what is a world reference for other countries in the world in matters related to research. In many provinces and in many municipalities, they have infrastructure in Cuba where they have human resources development, satisfying the needs of Cuba, but also satisfying the needs of other countries and giving assistance all worldwide. In developing the biopharmaceutical industry in Cuba, starting during the 1980s, made us count today with a cluster of research centers like BioCuba Pharma, which has been participated in developing the vaccines candidates and making Cuba a very good example as a free and universal kind of medicine. This is because of the visions of our Commander-in-Chief, and after these advances, we have been able to take our results to other places of the world and to contribute with other countries and continents in the world. Since the starting of the cooperation during the 1960s, during the earthquake in Chile, and the services we gave to Algeria in 1960, we were able to give more than 2,000 consultations of more than 40,000 surgical procedures. And considering all this information, I think we can value the medical services we have been given all the time, led and organized by our Commander-in-Chief. This medical assistance was important and seen during the 1990s when the Henry Reeve contingent was created, trying to give our help and our assistance to the United States after it was threatened by the Katrina hurricane. We also went to, or we indeed went to Pakistan and to Africa when the Ebola suffering people were receiving our services. In those places that have been impacted in those areas, we were able to give our assistance. In Azerbaijan, in our specific case, we were giving our services in 10 months ago. Has been a great experience, inspired by the example of the Commander-in-Chief. We have given thousands of medical consultations and given assistance to 1,000 patients, and we have more than 1,800 lives saved. This is an illustration of the way Fidel Castro is still among ourselves.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, good evening, dear friends that are today with us in this online forum. We are here to celebrate once again the International Labor Day under the slogan, United we shall overcome. Unfortunately, for the second year in a row, COVID-19 banners has from commemorating this date in the traditional manner with manifestations to support our revolutionary system, this time under the control of the imperialist power, the most powerful one in history. This island is an example of humanism and solidarity. Those two essential values, humanism and solidarity, we are devoting this space, and we do that highlighting that for the first time we have our cooperation in Europe. Then we were able to show you some images during this meeting and the two prior presentations of Dr. Santiago Badilla, Secretary General of Public Health Workers Trade Union, and Dalcis Torres Avila, head of the Medical Cuban Brigade, giving services in Azerbaijan. We shall ratify as well with this meeting our testimony of gratitude to the health sector and science sector's workers for the hard work they are doing and their contribution to save lives in Cuba and in other countries of the world, with the work they have been doing in 57 Henry Reeve medical brigades in 40 countries of the world during the struggle they are waging against COVID-19. Undoubtedly, the country, which has been threatened by the United States and stigmatized by the international media, has ratified in this complex situation of the world to be the one showing more solidarity. We should keep in mind the words from Fidel Castro when he said, "We practice our solidarity with specific events, not with beautiful words." Thanks to his work and thanks to his example, our country, our people is characterized by internationalism and solidarity. Fidel is all the time present in the parades for May Day in the Square of the Revolution, and today from his thoughts he will be the best example, and his legacy is still guiding many revolutionary people in the world. As you know, the differentiations of this meeting shall be broadcasted by YouTube from the CTC, and always with Cuba, siempre con Cuba, from the Cuban Institute of Friendship with the Peoples, as well as in Facebook at Cuba CTC and at Siempre con Cuba. Now we give the word to the Spanish Deputy Manuel Pineda, Vice President of the Friendship and Solidarity Group in the European Parliament, and we give the floor as well to Rod Miller, Director of the campaign in United Kingdom, and to Nikos Papageorgiou, member of the Executive Secretariat of the Workers in Greece.
I am from European Parliament. I trade unionist. The Cuban struggle has been exhibited in the 90s when Cuba participated in this international call in the interest of the international proletariat. The Cuban Confederation organized this forum. We have to remember the condemnation against the Franco regime on April the 1st of 1939. Lázaro Peña is a mirror of the fight of the Cuban workers, poor, black. He became the captain of the Cuban class, workers class. Since he died in 1974, after the CTC Congress, he was not buried. He was planted as a seed. With the triumph of the revolution in January 1959, May the 1st became a feast, a festival for the Cuban workers. They have together built, along with the Cuban Communist Party and the Cuban Revolution, a justice system ensuring rights to education, health care, and many others, which is absent in many countries. Today, the workers' class is facing the effects of the United States blockade. Cuba has been facing of the impacts of the blockade, which is the main instrument trying to yield the Cuban workers. As Marcelino said, we face this blockade, we won't give in. The blockade has not stopped the Cuban project. Cuba is giving a lesson to the world of love, solidarity. It has become a reference of health care and the treatment to the poor. It is also a reference for many countries that even though they are developed, they have requested the Cuban doctors and the Cuban medical advances. The Cuban vaccine, it's a landmark of a small people, which is a poor country, to defend the rights of workers. Cuba is not alone in this struggle. At the same time, Cuba gives solidarity throughout the world. We, all the workers of the world, specifically from Spain, will give back our solidarity by condemning the blockade and defending the Cuban revolutionary project. Along with Fidel, Camilo, Che, and all the avant-garde of Cuba, long live solidarity and long live May the 1st, until victory onward.
My name is Rob Miller, and I'm the director of the Cuba Solidarity Campaign here in Britain. I'm really pleased to be able to join with friends in Cuba and across the world to raise the campaign against the illegal and criminal US blockade of Cuba. Over the past year, we have all watched in admiration as more than 40 medical brigades from Cuba have travelled across the globe to help countries in the fight against coronavirus. This is of course the right thing to do, and Cuba teaches us that such cooperation across frontiers is possible at a time of worldwide pandemic. I'm really proud that here in the United Kingdom we managed to secure 42 official nominations to award the Nobel Peace Prize to the Henry Reeve International Medical Brigades. 28 parliamentarians from our parliament in London and the parliament in Scotland, as well as 14 academics, joined the call to make these official nominations to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. And they were joined by over 8,000 individuals here who posted messages of support online to support the campaign for the Nobel Peace Prize for the Cuban medics. Now, whether the Cubans win the Nobel Peace Prize or not, that really is not the point. It is rather about firstly thanking the Cuban medics and of course the entire Cuban people for their international solidarity and showing them that good people across the globe support them at this time. And of course it is also about campaigning in solidarity with Cuba by reaching out and finding new people who are prepared to support the campaign in parliaments, in academia, asking them to support this wonderful humanitarian effort. Yet right now, the US administration is continuing to take a very different path. It's the path of aggression, of intervention and of blockade. And they are trying to stop such international medical cooperation between countries. And as we know, they even blocked much needed medical supplies of medical equipment and PPE from reaching the people of Cuba. The current pandemic and the starkly different responses that we have seen from Cuba and the United States reminds us once again why it is our duty to campaign in solidarity with Cuba and against this illegal criminal blockade. It is why we are now focusing all of our efforts here in the UK on the campaign to support Cuba's resolution on the blockade at the United Nations. And we are working with the trade union movement here, which has very deep bonds of friendship with Cuba, to press the UK government at every level to ensure that it retains its policy of positive engagement with Cuba and in opposition to the blockade. We know that the US blockade is extraterritorial and it stops companies and people from around the world from trading with Cuba. Here in the UK, in the Cuba Solidarity Campaign, we had all of our own bank accounts closed down by the Cooperative Bank, a British bank, who made clear that they were under threat from the US sanctions and the threat of enormous fines that are being meted out to international companies that trade with the island. 2 years ago, a young Cuban student was even barred from studying at the biggest UK university, called the Open University. The university also cited the US extraterritorial blockade as their reason for blocking the Cuban student. We organised a huge campaign here with the trade unions and with hundreds of members of parliament against the decision of the Open University. In the end, we were forced to take a legal action against the university. We won the case on the grounds of equalities legislation here in the UK against race discrimination. In every country across Europe, there are similar examples where locally based companies have been blocked from trading with Cuba, and indeed who have also paid huge fines to the US Office of Foreign Asset Control to avoid being barred from working in the United States. And in our campaigning in the UK and across Europe and the world, we must search out these examples in each of our countries and raise these cases directly with our own governments, each of which has its own national laws to protect their domestic companies from such foreign aggression from the United States. In doing so, we can highlight the extraterritorial impact of the blockade, which is not only an attack on Cuba, but is also an infringement on the sovereignty of every other country. Together we can and we must make a difference. We must end the illegal, criminal US blockade of Cuba. Viva international solidarity. Viva the workers of the world. Viva Cuba. Thank you.
PAME, que representa el movimiento sindical de clase de Grecia.
We represent the labor movement of Greece, and we express our solidarity with the struggle of the CTC and the working class in Cuba against imperialism and for socialism. We can see that the United States and imperialists keep their efforts for many years now against the Cuban Revolution and against the struggle of the peoples of Latin America to self-decide their present and the future. Likewise, the policies of the European Union with the member states, governments, despite all the individual differences, have been supporting now for many years the opposition to the aggressive position of the United States towards Cuba and have been condemning their propaganda and announcements. The workers of capitalist countries have been, since the beginning of the pandemic, considering and counting the dead people, but were also able to witness the inhumane character of the bourgeois governments, which in an open manner did not take any efficient measure or made any efficient step towards the people so that the great capital might win. And big amounts of dead people in the United States, in Italy, Brazil, and Colombia, as well as in other countries, are a way to see the crimes of their governments against their own peoples. On the other hand, the Cuban people, Cuban doctors, the international health contingent Henry Reeve from Cuba are a great example of human position and international solidarity, and that's why we support the campaign to grant this Henry Reeve Brigade the Peace Nobel Prize for the year 2021. Our organization is supporting the Cuban people in the struggle they wage in this battle in Latin America against the imperialist interventions and plans. Long live Mayday, long live CTC, long live FSN.
Agradecemos los mensajes anteriores en todo.
We thank the previous messages. In all of them, there is a defense of our sovereignty in face of the hostility, which is summarized in the word blockade. This is the economic, commercial, financial siege to which we have been subject over 6 decades, tightened as never before during Trump administration. It's easy to see the extraterritorial nature of this policy in the European continent, showing the refusal of banks to make transactions with Cuba and many manufacturing companies refusing to send medical equipment to the island. There is an increasing international movement of solidarity with Cuba, composed of a representative of Solidarity, trade union, peaceful women, political forces, parliamentarian organizations, opposing the unilateral sanctions against Cuba, denouncing damages and effects, and by highlighting our achievements and successes in the social area. And they raise their voices to cry, Cuba is not alone. This space we take this opportunity to thank the German journal Jungle Bold, which is part of the European campaign named Unblock Cuba. During these months, it is in the peak of its performance, previous to the voting of the Cuban resolution against the blockade in the next UNGA coming June 23rd, where we are going to have the support of international community, and it will be an overwhelming victory, convinced that we have the right and decision, and this is the truth on our side. To listen to other support messages, we give the floor in this order to the friend Mikhail Orda, chairman of the Belarus Trade Union Federation. Then Boris Plassi, member of the French Workers' General Confederation. And then Pambis Kiritis, the Secretary General of the Pan-Cypriot Workers' Federation. And then Samuel Vanich, member of the National Coordination of Switzerland-Cuba Friendship Group. And Hilda Figueiredo, chairman of the Portuguese Peace Movement and coordinator of the European Peace Council.
On behalf of the Federation of Trade Unions of Belarus and the more than 4 million workers of our organization, I would like to congratulate you for the Workers' and Labor Day. We would like to thank for this activity in Cuba, and this is a great contribution to defend the rights of workers, not only in Belarus and Cuba, but also in some other states. Trade unions in the world have been calling for justice and access of people to work, considering the incomes, and we witness that in the world inequity is growing. But some countries, to defend individual freedoms, they violate international rules, and restrictive illegal measures are adopted in different countries. So the right of the people are violated, the right to work and to have a dignified type of life. In 2019, when our countries were supposed to get together in facing the pandemic, politicians adopt different measures to benefit their own interests. In the United Nations, more than once, the experts have been saying that these measures, in the difficult situations we are going through, deprive workers from their rights. Today, in Belarus and against Cuba, these legal sanctions are applying to put the countries under the prevalence of the states. Trade unions, as organizations that defend the interests of workers, might get together, united in this struggle, and we all unite and might work jointly to establish cooperation between the countries based on confidence and mutual respect, in which all decisions are made without imposing opinion. The slogan of Belarus workers is, "We are united, and only united and with solidarity and cohesion we can solve the difficult problems we have today."
Queridos compañeros, con motivo del 1 de
Dear friends, on the occasion of May Day, there has been these struggles. We have been able to show our solidarity with Cuban workers. The health crisis and the economic climate and social crisis that we are living all. There are devastating effects, and we should find alternatives through solidarity to distribute help. how to accept injustice in a system, and this shows the capacity of this public, and this shows multinational pharmaceutical companies not giving free vaccines. In this regard, the Cuban health policy is an example of an alternative, and many countries should learn from this example. And there is a total health care for free at any level, and free education at all levels. France requested help of Cuba to help other territories, overseas territories such as Martinique. Cuba is committed to share its vaccines with in the American continent. And although there are certain countries that are promoting the law of the jungle policy by not sharing vaccines or treatments related to COVID-19, which is essential if you want to put an end to the current situation. Cuba continues to face the U.S. blockade. CGT has always defended the right to sovereignty and self-determination of all the peoples. And we ratify the Cuban people that we will continue calling for the end of the blockade and engaging with Cuban organizations in activities of cooperation. The daily struggle to transform the current system will be continued in France along with workers, and this May Day will be a new opportunity to recall this long live May Day. And
τάξης, σας μεταφέρω τους θερμούς αγωνιστικούς χαιρετισμούς του Γενικού Συμβουλίου της ΠΕΟ και το θαυμαστική μας αλληλεγγύη.
Our admiration and international solidarity and the right to self-determination. We are celebrating May the 1st in different conditions. The pandemic has cost the life of millions of human beings. Conflicts and social inequalities grow. Powerful try to pass on this crisis to the working class. And as a result, millions of many people are suffering and facing unemployment, insecurity, and poverty. Even in the hope of humankind for immunization through vaccines is being commercialized. Peoples are victims of competition of the great multinationals that are negotiating with human health. Under these circumstances, messages and ideas of the Cuban Revolution lead us the way. We highlight again the importance of solidarity and cooperation among peoples. Cuba continues to be an example and an inspire in spite of the huge impact of the U.S. blockade against this country. Cuban workers continue in the avant-garde, supporting unconditionally other countries. An example of Cuban doctors and their presence and contribution in the struggle against the pandemics in many countries of the world, sending strong messages of humanity. That's why we consider the request of the World Trade Union Federation and many other organizations in the whole world to give the Nobel Peace Prize to Cuban heroic doctors as an example of appreciation. The Cypriot people also is among the peoples that has accepted Cuban solidarity and support in its struggles for independence and liberation from the occupation Turkish troops and the reunification of our country. I must say that for this solidarity and support, the shipyard workers are deeply grateful. Comrades, the Pan Shipyard Workers Federation and the CTC share visions and common values, and also joint actions throughout the guidelines of the World Federation of Trade Unions. We will continue working together under these common visions against the exploitation and against wars and imperialistic interventions, so that peace and social justice prevail in the world. With a unique ambition to satisfy the demands and expectations of the international working classes, Cuban and leaders of the revolution such as Fidel and Che and many others continue inspiring us and millions of workers in the world, encouraging to continue the struggle until the final victory. Cuba is not alone. United we shall overcome.
Compañeras y compañeros, es un gran honor para mí transmitirles.
It's a great honor for me to approach you and convey my greetings from the Swedish Association from Switzerland. The Chamber approved a motion demanding from the government to present some proposals about the way that Switzerland might be facing in a proactive manner the blockade of the United States against Cuba. When every year we pass a resolution of the United Nations to lift the blockade. For the solidarity movement for Cuba is an unexpected result, but imagine that this important decision was totally put in silence for the public in our country by the media. The same mass media that time after time are accusing China, Russia, and Cuba to be prohibiting information when they themselves are doing such work. One of the main tasks of our organization is to make clear and public this information that the mass media is trying to hide. We do that together with friendly organizations in the country and overseas that at the same time are fighting against this media monster, the transatlantic one that is controlled by the U.S. administration. Today, we are developing a campaign coordinated by our organization with different European countries that we hope takes a peak moment of its work in May the 1st. Well, the important thing is to request from the governments in our countries that once for all, and in the coming voting in the United Nations, they raise their voices to support a motion against the blockade. This is respected by international law, and it's important then not to be in total silence when they are to condemn this criminal policy of the United States. In Switzerland, there are important banks that are subordinated to the empire and that are trying to violate the national legislation due to the lack of control, with political denunciations and juridical and legal denunciations, but most of all with the presence in the streets. We try to pressure, and for 2 weeks before and after May the 1st, a lot of posters will be condemning the economic war against Cuba in the capital of Berlin, Vienna, and Berna, and in Geneva as the United Nations venue. We would like to make the population sensitive with some posters and caravans with some balloons showing the logo of the campaign. In our feelings and thoughts, we are united to you in Cuba, together with you. Long live the Labor Day. Long live Cuba and its revolution. Fidel still alive. On behalf of the Portuguese Council for Peace and Cooperation, I show my solidarity to the peace Cuban movement and sovereignty of the peoples, as well as to the people of Cuba. The Cuban Revolution is an inspiring example and is a source of inspiration and hope for those who love peace and sovereignty. For more than 60 years, there is an admissible economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States to Cuba, which is a unilateral event with extraterritorial nature that violates the Charter of the United Nations and the international law, with the purpose to attack the sovereignty and the rights of Cuba as a nation and the people of Cuba. The blockade is an instrument of aggression through which different administrations in the United States are trying since many decades ago to stop the Cuban people from going in a free path that they have selected in a free manner. The Trump administration strengthened this blockade, and this has been internationally condemned for many years. In the present situation of pandemic, once again, Cuba is showing its solidarity, offering collaboration to many countries, including the Henry Reeve Medical Brigade, which is a candidate from the Nobel Peace. And we recognize the role played for the Cuban movement of solidarity, mainly in the sector of health. We condemn the perverse and continuous imperialist, aggressive and criminal policy of the United States towards Cuba that is developed by the American imperialism to surrender a people which is still working with solidarity in the international sphere, posing an example for many countries. Pandemic did not put an end to sanctions or aggressions or blockades. On the contrary, it intensified its criminal consequences, mainly in health. Cuban showing solidarity is in a different position than great multinationals in the pharmaceutical sector, which are making business with vaccines and taking all the resources and even intensifying their aggression and interference policies against other peoples, as it occurs with Syria, Venezuela, Palestine, Cuba, and some other Asian and Middle East countries. There is a coincidence of ideas between the United States and the European Union in trying to strengthen the position of NATO in these weapons activities, not with the purpose to give solution to the problems that still exist in the peoples. This intention to develop NATO is seen with the increase of military troops in different countries that strengthen their sovereignty against countries that strengthen their sovereignty. NATO, European Union, and their allies have had a consequence against peoples, as we can see in the aggressions to Yemen, Syria, the still rich in Yugoslavia. Responsible of this aggression of our sufferings and hardships, history have shown that the countries which are resilient and defend their right to their freedom have to face aggressions at the margin and in violation of the international law and in violation of the Charter of the United Nations. That's why this year in Portugal we celebrate the constitution of the Portuguese Republic, and we're still defending a policy to defend the non-interference in the domestic affairs of the states, as well as the cooperation, peace, sovereignty, and national independence. We are against a policy that is determined hegemonic interests of the United States and the European Union. We ratify our support to Cuba, brave country, an example of hope and confidence to all the countries in the world that hope to attain social progress and peace. We are together with other Portuguese organizations working and calling for the devolution of the Guantanamo base, and we call the Portuguese government to pronounce themselves for the respect of the rights of the people of Cuba and the integrity of these people. Cuba shall overcome.
Para este 1 de mayo, los trabajadores de la
For this May Day, the technologies and medical workers are calling for a better health of the people of Cuba. Although we have the challenge of the blockade against Cuba, and we're still working in developing more or our vaccine candidates, our products, our liberty, sovereignty, and the force of a whole country. We unite to make Cuba.
We want to thank the previous speakers and the messages conveyed. I would like to say that more than 300 friends are online with us, mainly from Europe, but also from Africa and Latin America. We have received greetings from Kazakhstan with Viva Cuba, Marcelo Pablo Dalla from Uruguay, also sending congratulations. Also from Uruguay, we are receiving greetings, Cuban dear people. Thank you very much. We also received greetings from UIF, from Sankafon, from the Jose Marti Cultural Center in Greece. Greetings from Greece. Long live Solidarity, long live Cuba, long live May Day, unblock Cuba. Assembly of the Peoples of the Caribbean sending their support and message. Hugs from the Caribbean. Warm greetings from the Caribbean. We shall overcome together. From Mexico, no blockade on Cuba. Dear Dr. Klaus Peter is sending greetings from Germany. From Network. We also have greetings from Valencia. We have several messages from Russia. Elena Lyoskine, no blockade on Cuba. Long live the Cuban Revolution. Paulina Zahariev from the Cuban Friendship Association, and also from Russia, Lyudmila Rebrova is also sending greetings and message of resistance. Ivo Jurici from Slovenia sending strong hugs, warm hugs, and we also have messages from the UK. Thank you very much for joining us in this forum and in our struggle against the blockade and in favor of the Cuban Revolution. In spite of this strong impact as working people, given this pandemic and the inefficiency and irresponsibility of the hegemonic system in the world as to handling medical services, has accelerated the crisis of the capitalist system. This has led us to go through a time of transformations and new dynamics. We should find a more fair and just world based on more humane and socialist relations. Now we have the words in this order. Aris Rodriguez Galan, Chairman of the Democratic Youth World Federation. Maurizio Landini, Secretary General from the Italian Workers' Confederation. Angelica Becker, Chairperson of the Germany-Cuban Solidarity Network. Larissa Gorchakova, Chairperson of the Women's of Our City organization. Julia Palamarchuk, Coordinator of Children of Talavera from Ukraine. These are inspiring messages in support of Cuba from all of these nations. I would like to wish you all and relatives that although these hard circumstances in Cuba has made huge efforts to minimize the impacts of this pandemic. In many countries, they're facing hard times because of the wrong system, and this has affected the working class. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize all the contributions of Cuba to the humankind, such as in the midst of this pandemic and the medical breakthroughs, and we hope that sooner than later this could benefit Cuba and some other countries of the world to overcome this pandemic. It's an honor for me on behalf of the World Youth Federation to send this message in such important days as May Day, which is key for all young and working class of the world. This is a date where we go to the street to say that we are the driving force of the history, that in our hands we should build a world free of exploitation and oppression. Unfortunately, we are aware that this time, because of this pandemic, we won't have these beautiful images of Cuba on May Day other years. The Cuban people went to the streets to show their commitment to the Cuban Revolution and the working class and the youth. Unfortunately, this year, given the pandemic, we won't be able to see these images, but this important event and some others will continue this flame alive, and once this pandemic is over, we will see stronger than ever these images where the young people and working class will take the streets. I wish you all the best. We will continue in solidarity and facing the imperialism to finally build the world that we have all fought for. Thank you very much, comrades. And
Grazie per l'invito a partecipare a questo incontro.
Thank you for inviting me to attend this solidarity conference. Although it's an online conference, on behalf of the CGIL, I would like to address the Cuban Central workers and convey our sincerest and deepest appreciation for the solidarity and brotherhood shown through the medical brigade, Henry Brief. Our sanitary system was in great difficulties, and this brigade came to Italy and gave invaluable help in fighting these infectious diseases that allowed us to equip ourselves and provide professional medical care in face of this pandemic. It's a gesture that we won't forget, and it shows the generosity of the Cuban people. Thank you. Dear comrades, we have a common goal. to overcome this pandemic as soon as possible that has caused so many deaths and destroyed millions of jobs. And we want to say loud and clear that the working movement is in favor of eliminating these problems that prevent the access to vaccine and the right of health, which should be accessible for all people, regardless their income or their passport. We believe that this is a choice that we should do together, and it's a strong condemnation. We want to say that this pandemic has affected, and we won't be as normal as before. This is an economic system that is focused in the hands of very few people, and it spreads poverty and scarcity, and this is destroying our planet, where a free market and big companies have acquired the control over the economy and new technologies and finance and national institutions, making conditions every time more to international agencies. Such normality to which we want to go back to won't be friendly to working peoples. They will leave millions of people without jobs. The challenge which we are facing is decisive for the future of all. We have never experienced such a crisis that has united us to find solutions and go beyond the national or regional borders. We should be able to ensure rights such as liberty, universal health care for everyone, how to get our economy to produce wealth at our service for the well-being of humankind, and give back the work, the social and political value it should have. We are ready to work together. We are committed to face these challenges, joining the voice of the workers. It's the first obstacle that we should remove together, this hideous blockade imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. That's why we want to express our solidarity, and we should work together in every opportunity in international fora to denounce this policy. Dear friends, happy May Day.
First of all, I would like to express on behalf of the solidarity organizations with Cuba in Germany my congratulations to the CTC and to all Cuban workers taking advantage of this celebration of May the 1st, 2021. My name is Angelica Becker. I'm the president of Solidarity Network with Cuba in Germany, with about 40 groups with different nationalities. In Germany, the United Trade Unions, with about 8,000 members, it's celebrating this day, labor, not the day of workers, with the slogan Solidarity is Future, May Day 2021. This year, the second year of the pandemic, in the streets, this is very necessary because of the situation of COVID-19 in Germany, with a great number of people infected, with payment subsidies of reduced working hours, and with lack of jobs. Gastronomy, trades, commerces, as well as artists are losing their places of job, with a serious situation of homeless people, with social differences with kids, teenagers, and students who have not seen the inside of their institutes since months ago, with women that, as usual, have a number of problems on their shoulders. The German government spending lots of money to stabilize their economic and social situation, but the situation of big companies, which at this moment should receive some state help, are sharing dividends to the owners, with the owners. The working population shall pay for this situation. So it's important that trade unions fight against those trends and the not respect of international and labor rights. Trade unions have the right to participate in the management of companies, economical sectors, or economical entities. And they play an important role in the implementation of the ordering task in times of COVID-19 with a lack of foreign currency, especially because of the cruel blockade of the United States against Cuba. Out of this reality, most population of the German population do not know a lot because the mass media is taking into silence all this information or minimize the effect. That's why we have the European Anglo-Cuba campaign with the some of our terrorists here in Germany that started by October last year, coordinating before the annual voting in the United Nations denouncing the blockade of the United States against Cuba. During all this period, some important activities were developed, and during Easter there were some parades from peace organizations in Germany and in Europe, showing solidarity with Cuba. And in May the 1st, the World Labor Day, where we consider the possibility to show ourselves and to show our workers having Cuban flags with some posts and some creative activities under pandemic conditions. This was a possibility to be seen by many people who do not know the revolutionary Cuba. We know that we are to develop a political pressure in our government, in our parliament, as well as in European institutions that every single year vote against the blockade, but they do practically nothing, no concrete activities against the extraterritorial effect of the blockade. The Cuban people have been suffering for many years, especially during Trump administration. But the new President Biden is not showing any activities to change the situation with Cuba. Cuba is showing solidarity with many peoples that are fighting for a fair world and independence. An example is sending medical brigades. Those who want peace are to participate in May Day 2021, and we are proud to participate together with you. Long live Cuba. Long live international solidarity. I'm the president of the Social Association for the Preservation. Dear participants in this conference, I would like to congratulate you all for this celebration of May Day, the day of international solidarity for workers. Cuba is a country with cultural and social traditions, but the most important transformations took place since the wise and determined leader Fidel Castro got in power. Cuba is an independent country with equity of rights and opportunities, and historically, Cuban women together with men have been fighting for the values of the socialist republic. Thanks to the great woman who was Vilma Spin, founder of the Cuban Women's Federation in Cuba, it was created a system that keeps equal rights for everyone. Cuban women are to be celebrated internationally. The Russian women in our city and the international organization World Leaders have known for more than 20 years, and they also keep friendship links with Cuban women in their fight for the people's freedom to select the life they have decided to have and to defend their national sovereignty, so that no one is to be interfering the domestic issues of the countries. This economic independence is key element for the freedom in Cuba. But for more than half century, the United States have launched this financial and economic blockade and have been implementing genocidal measures which have a daily impact in the people of Cuba, but mainly in women. So women are the ones showing spiritual values for the development of society, and women are the ones doing the preservation of society, raising their kids, supporting the development of society, and due to the unequal position of women, this has an impact in families. We support the struggle waged by Cuban women to keep independence in their countries. Due to the exceptional credits for Cuban women, one of the women of the 5 heroes in Cuba was decorated here, Adriana Perez, with the silver dove, the silver pigeon decoration representing the common spirit of women in the world. This preserves present and also allows us to work in the future conquerors and also to safeguard the human life in our planet. I would like to congratulate you all for May Day and Humanity is Nation.
Интернационализм – это международная солидарность. И именно можно так отметить самым лучшим примером.
We be able to characterize the Cuban program was created for Ukrainian children. After Chernobyl, the first country who gave us their hand was Fidel Castro. We had opportunity to receive treatment, food, excursions. Over 24 years was assumed for free for each Ukrainian child who came to Cuba. I cannot think of the economic cost of this work for the Cuban people. With this project, Cuba taught me something very important. I cannot spend one time without helping others. We who became grown-ups founded our own organization, and through this program we help others who need to receive treatment in Cuba. Of course, this is much less. During the pandemic, we have had 2 or 3 persons going to Cuba, but given this problem of the pandemic, in spite of this, we want to continue this program and send kids to be treated in Cuba. So on behalf of our organization, we want to stress our appreciation to the Cuban people for their contribution in the fate of our children and the whole world. Thank you very much.
La plaza amaneció con luz de sol en sus farolas y en la avenida un viento azul. Manos se juntaron en la calle y las aceras, la voz se hizo multitud.
Balcones y portales se hacen eco de banderas, un tiempo nuevo abraza el porvenir.
Multicolor la marcha de gigantes que se empeñan, semilla imprescindible en su raíz. Mambisa y soberanía.
gracias a los
Thank you very much to previous speakers. As every May Day in Cuba, we will return to celebrate when conditions allowed us. We wanted to show some of the pictures of some European friends who have attended previous May Day demonstrations. We want to thank the different messages of greetings that we continue to receive on occasion of May Day. As you know, this celebration was preceded by historical days of the 8th Congress of the Cuban Communist Party, which is a strong and unbreakable decision of continue our revolution forward with the efforts of all Cuban patriots. The agreements constitute a compass to guide the action of workers and continue implementing deep changes that we have proposed ourselves as part of the updating of the Cuban social and economic model. This is a Congress of the continuity with new leadership in front of the revolution to continue defending the principles of the socialist revolution, encouraged by the deep conviction that all of those who fight and resist are entitled to succeed. Now I give the floor to Toon down here and Erwin Carpentier, Belgian trade unionist and members of the Belgian Cubanism organization, then Thomas Pringle, chairman of the Ireland Cuba Friendship Group, Gyula Thurmer, the Hungarian Worker Party organization, Marco Papaci, president of the Italian Cuba Friendship National Association, then Jonas Poole, deputy director of May 8 Journal, which publishes the German journal Jungle World, and Jose Manzaneda, coordinator of the Project Cuba Information TV, who highlight and thank the solidarity of Cuba and the importance of defending the Cuban Revolution at any cost in face of destabilizing attempts and actions of ideological political subversion.
Queridos compañeros,
dear friends of Cuba and the world movement of solidarity with Cuba, we are Toon Daniel and Erwin Carpentier of the board of Cubanismo. It's just a solidarity organization with Cuba from Belgium. Good morning. This organization is the avant-garde to denounce the blockade and inform the Cuban reality and against the lies of the enemies of the Cuban Revolution, and to arrange activities and organize friends. We are trade unionists as well. I belong to the Christian Trade Union and he belongs to the Socialist Trade Union. We salute all of our friends from the trade union movement. We want to express our deep sorrow for the passing away of the revolutionary spirit of Fidel. This coronavirus pandemic has shown the inhumane side of capitalism. We have seen how neoliberal capitalism has privatized and made cuts to public health. How capitalism was not able to save lives, causing thousands of dead people, including Belgium, causing limitations of democratic rights. We see that pharmaceuticals are benefiting from vaccines and rich countries are denying access to vaccines by poor countries. This COVID-19 pandemic crisis has shown that the working class is essential for the functioning of the society. Men and women, workers, salespersons, drivers of public transportation, everyone continued working to help the society. Capitalists and spokespersons ask for open economy by sacrificing our health care in their interest. Small business people are broke, and we don't want this post-COVID world to be as before. This pandemic has also shown the great humanistic value of Cuba, a society where revolution saves lives, not only in Cuba but in some other countries, such as in Europe, as we've seen in Italy when Henry Reed Brigade arrived. So thank you very much to the Cuban health providers. Cubans continue struggling to improve their lives, to improve their socialism. They have shown so with their new constitution adopted, facing the health crisis, the 8th Congress of the party, and the restructuring program. We support the Cuban people to defend their sovereignty and right to develop themselves. The example of Cuba is a source of inspiration for the peoples of the world and encourage us to give solidarity. We will see each other when we will be able to go back to this beautiful island. Patria, homeland is humankind. Long live Cuba, long live international solidarity. United we shall overcome.
Hello, my name is Deputy Thomas Pringle, and I'm the chairperson of the Cuba support group in the Irish Parliament, Dáil Éireann. I act as chairperson of the support group on behalf of the Clan Corda of the Dáil, Sean O'Friel, who is actually the chair of all the support groups, and so I act on his behalf in the normal times. I was chair of the Parliamentary support group in the last Dáil, and I'm chair again in this Parliament as well. We are a bit slower getting going in this Parliament because of the COVID crisis and the fact that the Parliament has been on lockdown and reduced sittings since March of last year. So I thought it was important that we get the group going and start to do some work anyway to try and continue on the work that we had done in the last Parliament. I think the work that the Parliament does in supporting the Cuban issues and Cuban solidarity is very important, and I think it also feeds into the work that has been agreed between the Irish Parliament or the Irish Government and the Cuban Government to work closer together and to build on the solidarity that is there between the two countries. We have had a number of issues that we've worked on in the Parliament here, and we supported Cuba particularly in the confrontation in relation to the sanctions of the Trump administration and to raising the issues in relation to those. And then as well we had to secure the Irish vote on the UNGA resolutions against the economic blockade, which was vitally important as well. And we've also worked to just continue that political dialogue between Ireland and Cuba, which I feel is very important. Recently, in the last, before the support group has been re-established now, we've been worked very well to get some support for the Henry Reed Brigade and getting the nominated for the what's it called? Nobel Peace Prize. For the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo, so that was very worthwhile, and I think something very important that can be done. And it shows Cuba's contribution to the world and World Health and as well as what the Henry Reed Brigade are doing, and that's very important. And also we'd hope to over the next while as well, maybe highlight the fact that Cuba is making vaccinations available as well as much as possible to third world countries, which is very vitally important, and we would like to use that example to push the Irish Parliament to ensure that the Irish government supports the vaccination for countries that are less well off than us. We'll be getting the support group up and running again now in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be looking forward to working on behalf of that and pushing, along with Hugo, pushing to get Cuban issues on the agenda for the Irish government. And hopefully then we'll be in a position to, of course, we'll be in a position to offer, invite the Cuban Parliament over for a visit, and then hopefully at some stage get a subsequent visit as well for ourselves to go to Cuba, because I think that's very important in terms of building relations as well. So that's basically the outline of the work we're doing. We'd like to send our solidarity to everybody in Cuba, and wish you all the best, and look forward to working closer with you in the future as well. Thank you.
Kedves kubai barátaink, dolgozó testvéreink, a Magyar Munkáspárt nevében Foro elvtárs.
Esteemed comrades, on behalf of the Working Party of Hungary, we send our warmest greetings and Educational May Day to all workers. We wish a lot of luck to all participants in the event organized by CTC in Cuba. On behalf of the Hungarian Party of Workers, we show our solidarity with the workers in Cuba, and we support the struggle against imperialism from Americans and in the struggle to favor sovereignty and independence in Cuba. We wish, in the spirit of the 8th Congress of the Communist Party of Cuba, that the people make progress in the construction of a socialist society and prosperity in Cuba. This is on behalf of the Hungarian Party of Workers. So prosperity and success for the party and the people of Cuba. This is a message we send to all workers in Cuba from Budapest.
Soy Marco Papà.
I'm Marco Papasci, President of the National Association of Friendship, Cuba, Italy. From Italy, we salute the members of CTC, members of ICAP. From Italy, we show our solidarity with the Cuban Revolution against the criminal blockade that for more than 60 years has been affecting the Cuban Revolution and its people. It's a blockade that stops the total development of the revolution in Cuba. And we would like to pay tribute the Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro as an example of solidarity of the people of Cuba with the rest of the world. We denounce the criminal and illegal commercial, financial, and social blockade that is the main hurdle for the social development in Cuba. We ask the European Union and the whole world that in the 29th occasion vote against the blockade and the United States to be by themselves in defending the blockade against Cuba. We would like to denounce the campaign against the medical collaboration legally established between the Cuban government and its international partners. In Italy, we had the chance to receive 2 medical brigades have helped our people in Crema and Turin. The Cuban doctors have expressed with their work the relevant training of Henry Reeve Brigade that deserves the Peace Nobel Prize. From Italy, we send our greetings to the people of Cuba, to all workers in Cuba, our hug embrace from Italy. Till victory, forever.
Queridos compañeras y
esteemed comrades, my greetings from Berlin, Germany. My name is Johann Spuller, Deputy Director of 8 de Marzo Publishing House in Germany, together with solidarity groups in Germany, Austria, Switzerland. We started this movement in 2019, this Anglo-Cuban Solidarity campaign, to send a clear solidarity expression in these 3 countries. There were hundreds of posters and activities in the public space in many cities. Last year, we called again for this solidarity campaign, to which we added many countries. The result was all the solidarity samples in Europe, with the participation of 100 solidarity organizations, media, parties, and different groups from 27 groups. Since October 2020, we have performed public and virtual activities against the blockade in different European countries as part of the campaign. The first stage of Anglo-Cuba started by April. For instance, in Berlin, in Germany, there are hundreds of posters, advertisements in radio, newspapers, and magazines, as well as an online publicity and public riots. These actions have been financed with donations we have received, and with these actions we have the intention to inform the biggest amount of people about the blockade, genocidal blockade implemented by the United States administration, not only to the classic friends of Cuba. Secondly, to pressure the government of the United States and the followers in Europe to stop the embargo policy, the blockade policy, as well as their active or passive support, and also to prove that left-wing forces in Europe are able to work together and to enhance their organization and economical activities which are necessary to do a joint work. Allow me, please, to show you some pictures of taken in the last weeks with images and actions of Anglo-Cuba and information reports about this campaign that might be found www.unblock-cuba.org. We would like to invite all the European groups that are against blockade and who are not part of Anglo-Cuba to join us in this struggle against the blockade and for life. We are hand-to-hand with Cuba, and Cuba we shall overcome.
Hola, compañeras, compañeros.
Hello, comrades. It's an urgency to take international cooperation to support Cuba after the sanctions imposed by Donald Trump. Now we are developing a great operation of the international right wing to stop that blockade and to stop or to develop all initiatives of conversation between Cuba and the United States. The Trump administration developed some activities which were supported by Cuban-American groups with $70 million for all kinds of interference plans in the country and to support different groups of counter-revolution. Supported by international media, they impose a cultural war that's still happening and trying to generate some noise in these mercenary groups. which are minority of the Cuban cultural creation. We have to activate in the world in a simultaneous manner as all these activities of solidarity against the blockade. We shall see in the United States National General Assembly the presentation of the motion against the blockade, and we should have the support of the international community. This is an international call that is sent to all people, that includes migration, Cuban migration in the world. Biden administration must lift the blockade and stop affecting living conditions of the civil population in Cuba. The blockade stops the salaries and other incomes of the working population in Cuba to be enjoyed. This stops the imports of fuel, as well as development of housing plans, education, health, and stops the development of these countries which have great educational, scientific potentials. Cuba is the people that shows most solidarity in the world, and have sent 57 medical brigades with thousands of cooperants, most of them women, and they have been sent to 40 countries in the world, including Europe. But even in Europe, they have people who are not faithful, who are collaborating with these kind of statements. There are many people that enjoy these hardships they're having in Cuba, and they are trying to promote these sanctions and calling for common position. This is a colonialist position of blackmail sanctions, which should be eliminated. They are saying lies about what is happening in the island. They are minimizing or blaming the Cuban government for the brutal effect of the blockade. So we need that worldwide we receive this support to have more information in Cuba, and also to send solidarity and collaboration to Cuba. Jose Marti said that homeland is mankind, so we mobilize and support the people. We mobilize for the support of the people of Cuba, and precisely Cuba is humanity.
En homenaje al comandante en jefe Fidel Castro Ruz, para continuar demandando el levantamiento del genocida, criminal e injusto bloqueo económico, comercial y financiero impuesto por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos contra Cuba.
Los días 30 de abril y 1 de mayo, foros regionales contra el bloqueo.
Sígalos desde las redes sociales de la Central de Trabajadores de Cuba y del Instituto Cubano de Amistad con los Pueblos.
Muchas gracias a todos los.
Thank you very much to all speakers and all of those joining us. We continue receiving many messages from the Russian channel in solidarity with Cuba, saying Europe along with Cuba. We also have messages from Denmark. He's saying, Benny Simork is saying that it has been really fruitful, and he congratulates Rob Miller's speech. Also from Russia, we have received many messages from Roberto Victorio. Also sends a loud, long live of solidarity and Mayday. Friends from Serbia, Denmark, Ukraine, Cyprus, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, France, Russia, Kazakhstan, Argentina, South Africa, We cannot read them all, but they are here with us. We ratify the message that Cuba will always be a living, united, victorious homeland. We want to exhibit our solidarity with workers and trade union organizations of the world who continue to be victims of neoliberal policies and who defend firmly the justice and recovery of workers' rights and social contributions. Our Martian Socialist and Fidel project will always be with you. From this forum, we call all our friends from Europe to replicate all the actions against the blockade, particularly in the last weekend of May, to continue this wave of struggle against the blockade. To conclude, we would like to play a message of appreciation sent by Gerardo Hernandez Nordelo, national hero and coordinator of the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution, and at the end, a song by Buena Fe Band. My name is Gerardo Hernandez Nordelo. I am the national coordinator of the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution. For me, it's an honor to be here having this opportunity to address the participants of the European Forum within the International Solidarity Forum in occasion of May Day. This is a moment we all Cubans wait for, to receive, among other reasons, delegations from all over the world who decide to spend this time with us. Unfortunately, these last 2 years it won't be possible, but we want to take this opportunity to continue receiving the warmth and the support of many friends from all over the world. The Cuban people continues to suffer from the impacts of the criminal U.S. blockade that have been there for over 60 years in this attempt to suffocate us. I was born under the blockade. I don't know how it's to live without a blockade, but we expect that sooner than later this blockade will be lifted. I must say that I am one of the Cuban Five. I lived in flesh and blood what solidarity means, especially European solidarity. I'm sure that this message, many comrades from Europe that belong to solidarity groups, trade unions and organizations that supported our struggle, our cause, the cause of the Cuban Five, and it was shown that when we are all united in any cause, victory can be achieved. We can win. The same way we won in this struggle of the Cuban Five, we will celebrate someday, thanks to your solidarity, the triumph of the Cuban Revolution over the U.S. blockade. Enjoy this celebration. This is a time to show the strength of the progressive forces of the world, and we are convinced that this May Day will be a special one, not only because of the limitations of this pandemic, but also special for the enthusiasm and the joy of all of you. Thank you, Europe. Thank you very much on behalf of the Cuban people, and especially from the Cuban masses.
En este frasco ruge un silencio plebeyo, como de tropas mambisas, presta salto que a degüello. En este bulbo, humedad y amor bravío, Paraguana bella eterno,
por lágrimas de dos ríos. En este envase, democracia sin alarde, orgullo para el honesto, vergüenza para el cobarde. En esta dosis, la Virgencita de la Caridad bendice al bravo David que enfrenta al rudo Goliat. Bendice al bravo David. En este frasco se concentran las secuelas, en vez de erguir casinos, ponerse a sembrar escuelas. En este bulbo, con evidencias de otra edad, responde esta tierra libre, que patria es humanidad. En este envase hay desvelos, sobrecargas de estrellas hoy encendidas por aquel sol de luz larga. En esta dosis están la fe y la fuerza de un país más protegido, más inmune, más feliz, más protegido, más inmune, más feliz, más protegido, más inmune, más feliz, más protegido, más inmune, más feliz. Dime que tú no extrañas la calle, dime que tú no extrañas la rumba, los carnavales, la playa, arrímate pa' acá que a mi ciencia le zumba, le zumba, le zumba, créame que le zumba. Compa, y claro que no creo, científicos con talento, imagínate un momento, a mi gente sin bloqueo, sé de quién tuvo el mareo, hablando vaina y me asombro, que ahora se quieren poner un pinchazo en cada hombro. Me emociono cuando nombro mis soberanas vacunas, como dicen los muchachos, sí que la tiraron dura, durísima, durísima, ay, dura, dura, dura. Confianza, mucha confianza nada más. El que sabe cómo anda tiene derecho a triunfar. Con tambores para adelante, nadie nos puede parar. En esta dosis está la fe y la fuerza de un país más protegido, más inmune, más feliz, más protegidos, más inmune, más feliz.
Thank you, Buena Fe, for this beautiful song. By this, we conclude. We hope to see you tonight at 10 p.m. Cuba time for the Asian Forum. And we also invite you to come tomorrow on May Day, where we will have the speech by the CTC Secretary General. We will have the Forum of America and Africa, and we will have the conclusion of this event. All through the YouTube channel and the Facebook page at CTC, Cuba CTC, and always with Cuba. Our heart with all of you. Thank you very much.